Alright, so today we're going to be talking about box and whisker plots. Box and whisker plots are something that you've probably seen before in 6th grade or 7th grade, so we're just going to quickly run through how to make one again. That way we can refresh your memory since it's part of our different types of data recording tools that we're going to use in this unit. So let's just define box and whisker plots first. Sometimes box and whisker plots are called number line graphs, since it's a way to graph data on a number line. So that's what we're going to use as our definition. It's a way to graph data, onto a number line. So usually we use an axis when we graph. We use graph paper or a grid of some sort, but using box and whisker plots, we can use just a number line to graph this data. So here is an example set of data, and we're going to use this to go through how we would make a box and whisker plot. So let me see if I can get all the data in here. There we go. The first step is for sure the most difficult and time-consuming, and it's still pretty easy. So the first step is just to put all the data in order from least to greatest. So to save you some time of me going through here and doing this, I've already got it written on a different sheet of paper. So we've got 3.9 first, and then 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, another 4.3. We want to make sure our repeated values stay in. Then we've got 4.4, another 4.4, another 4.4, and another 4.4. So we've got 4 total 4.4s. Then we've got 2 4.5s. And then we've got a 4.6 and a 4.7, 4.8. Let me scooch this over. 4.9, 5.0, and 5.1. So that's a lot. That's probably one of the biggest data sets you'll ever use to make a box and whisker plot. Usually, when there's a ton of data, it just takes a long time to put it all in order, so we wouldn't do that too often. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to find the median value. So median, if you don't remember, is just the middle value of the data. We get there by taking example numbers off of the end. So we're going to get rid of our first numbers and our last number. Then we're going to get rid of the next number in, and then the next number in. We're going to do this all the way until we find the middle number in our data. So I'm going to keep going, keep taking away one on each side, until the last one in the middle is my median. So this is 4.4. I'm going to circle it to remind myself. We're going to call 4.4 Q2, or quartile 2. That means it's the number that's right in the middle. It divides our data into 2 even sets. So we've got 4.4 as Q2. Now that we've divided my data in 2, we can find the median of each half of the data. That's going to give us Q1, quarter 1, and Q3, quartile 3. So let me take a look at my first data set here, my half. I'm going to do the same thing I did before by taking away the first and last data point over and over. So you get rid of one, get rid of the next one, get rid of the next one, get rid of the next one. Our median ends up between 2 numbers. It ends up between 4.3 and 4.3. Well, that's useful to us because we can just call that 4.3. We don't have to do anything special there. When we find our Q3, we're going to take this side of our data and do the same thing to find the median. So cover up one, cover up another, another, another. Our Q3 ends up right between 4.7 and 4.8. So if you had forgotten how to do that from last year or the year before, to find that median, we're just going to go halfway in between 4.7 and 4.8. And halfway in between 4.7 and 4.8 is 4.75. So my Q3 is 4.75. Once I've got Q1, Q2, and Q3, then I'm going to go ahead and choose a scale and label. So in order to choose a scale, I might take a look at my smallest and my largest data value. So I go from 3.9 to 5.1. So I'm trying to think of a good scale that would work there. Maybe if I count by 3s, that would spread my numbers out enough so they would fill up most of my graph. So let me start at maybe at 3.5. And it doesn't really matter where you start. I'm just starting there because I wanted to start on a 0.5. Then we should go 3.8, add another 0.3 and get to 4.1. Then we've got 4.4, 4.7, 5.0, and then 5.3. And that will give all of our data because we only go to 5.1. So again, you could do a different scale if you wanted to count by 0.4s or 0.5s or start a different number. There's a lot of different things that you could do. This is what I chose, but you can make a different scale if you'd like. So then we are going to mark the minimum and maximum values, Q1, Q2, and Q3. So there's 5 different things that we're going to mark on here. So my minimum value was 3.9. When I mark 3.9, I'm going to put a line up above my number line where 3.9 would be. So a vertical line just about this long right up above my number line. Then I'm going to mark my maximum value. And my maximum value, if I look up in my data set again, is 5.1. So I'm going to mark 5.1 the same way I marked the other one, just by putting it above. Then I'm going to mark Q1, Q2, and Q3. So Q1 is 4.3, so I'm going to mark 4.3. I'm going to mark Q2, which is 4.4. That one's easier because it's right on my line. And then Q3 is 4.75, so it's a little bit after 4.7. Once I've got all my values marked, I'm going to make a box from Q1 to Q3. So remember, Q1 is going to be my second value because this first mark is just my minimum. So here's Q1, here's Q2, and Q3. So I'm going to make a box that's going between Q1 and Q3. That's where most of my data will sit. This shows where the middle half, or the most part of my data is. Then we have to make whiskers to our minimum and maximum value. That just shows us that our data does go all the way to these 2 points. So that we're going to connect our first value and our last value to the box in the middle to show that the rest of our data falls between those areas. And that's all we have to do. This box in Whisker Plot shows me the middle of my data, and then it shows me where my outliers are. Since the middle of my data is kind of smushed together in the middle here and my whiskers are pretty long, that shows that I probably have a clump of data near the middle of my range. And then I've got a couple of data points that might be outliers on the ends. Let's do one more. So here's another one to construct. We have a much smaller data set this time, which is going to be nice when we have to put these in order. So here's my data set. So I'm going to put them in order first. I've got 77. And then I've got 82. Then 83. 85. 87. 88. And 98. So those are my data points. And then I'm going to be able to go through all of my Q1, Q2, and Q3 stuff. Make sure that when you're putting your data points in order, you're taking your time. So you don't really need to rush through it like I did. You might want to cross them off one at a time. Make sure you're not skipping any numbers because that will change the outcome and the look of your box in Whisker Plot. So here we're going to have Q2 equals Q1 equals and Q3 equals. And you could put those in order with 1, 2, 3 if you wanted to. I just know that I find Q2 first, so I put it on the top. So again, to find Q2, I'm finding the middle of my data. So I'm going to cross off or cover up the first and last point, and then go in 1, go in 1. And my Q2, my quartile 2, is 85. Then I'm going to find Q1 and Q3. So I'm going to take Q1 by looking at the first half of my data, cross off my first and last, and I'm left with just 82. So Q1 is 82. I can't write. There we go. And then Q3, we've got, crossing off my first and last one, Q3 is going to be 88. So when I come down here and make my scale, I have to figure out a scale that's going to take me all the way from my smallest to my largest value in my range, so 77 to 98. And I think maybe I'll just label by 5s this time because that's an easy scale to use. So maybe I'll start at 75, that way I start below my range. Go 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. I could keep going, but my scale doesn't go beyond 100 because my range doesn't go beyond 100. So I just stopped there. Then I'm going to mark my minimum and maximum values and Q1, Q2, and Q3. So my minimum value is 77. I'll mark 77 with a line, vertical line. Then I've got my maximum value of 98, so I'll mark that with a line as well. About right there. Then I've got Q2 up here, which is 85. It doesn't matter which order you mark these in as long as you mark all 5 numbers. Q1 is 82. And Q3 is 88. So once I've got all 5 numbers marked, I'm going to make my box from Q1 to Q3. So that gives my middle 3 points their box. And make my whiskers all the way to the minimum and maximum value. This box in Whisker Plot has really, really long whiskers, showing us that we might have some really big outlier points at the beginning, or especially at the end here where this long whisker is. And most of our data is, again, clumped up in the middle. Right? For your homework tonight, you'll have to make 3 box and whisker plots. You can use this video for instruction if you want to go back and take a look, or you can just use your notes.